Yeah. So thank you all for joining us tonight. This is another one in a series of our child care town hall meetings in Door County, where we are discussing the local child care landscape and looking at issues that are prevalent, and also trying to look at paths forward to provide sustainable, high quality, reliable child care across our county, and also pay our current workforce a fair wage, and also look to increase our workforce in the future. So I'm Christina Studebaker, Community Impact Coordinator with United Way of Door County. Tonight's meeting, we are circling back around to an earlier topic. So we had talked about the topic of workforce in general. We had also talked about one way of addressing workforce is through the Youth Apprenticeship Program, and Aaron O'Toole, who is joining us tonight, was our speaker that night. So thank you, Aaron. And it was so engaging. I will say, I've never had a command performance on any of the topics I talked about, but Aaron was so enthusiastic and engaging. We wanted to bring in some students to learn about their experience. And then Monica, is it Guilette or Gillett? She's muted.
Okay, Gillett.
Gillett was present that night, and she has come at training in early childhood education as an adult learner, circling back around or in addition to another career. And so that's all also interesting. And she was an active participant that night. She has been gracious enough to join us tonight to also share her personal experiences with us. So Aaron, I can either hand it off to you to introduce Briana, or we can let Briana just talk about herself. I'll hand it over to you two to decide how we transition here, but thank you for joining us.
Awesome. I'll just do a quick introduction here on Briana. Briana is one of our Anopi Youth Apprentices. She is part of the Youth Apprenticeship program at Kewanee High School, and she is employed at one of our daycare facilities in Algoma, right, Briana?
Yes.
Yes. So Briana is going to share a little bit about herself, and then Briana, I'm going to ask you those questions that we had talked about beforehand. We're going to do like a Q&A style question and answer. So if you want to go ahead and just introduce yourself to the group, and then we'll dive into those questions.
Sounds good. So my name is Briana. I am 18 years old. I'm currently a senior at Kewanee High School. I am working at a daycare in Algoma, which is called Wings of Eagles Childcare. What else did you want me to say?
That's perfect. So we'll talk a little bit about your experiences. So do you want to share with the group when you became interested in early childhood education?
I kind of feel like I've always been interested because I've always loved little kids. So as long as I can remember, I've always been interested in early childhood.
Awesome. Were there any other areas that you found interesting before thinking about a career in early childhood? Did you ever want to do something different, or you've always been, you knew you loved children and you wanted to work with them?
I always knew I loved children. I was looking at nursing,
Okay.
but then I just went back to children.
Absolutely. How did you get involved in youth apprenticeship, and what made you think it was a good fit or opportunity for you?
We had a speaker at school that came and told us about youth apprenticeship, and I knew that in order to work in a daycare, I had to be 18. So once she said that she could get me in earlier than that, I decided I was going to talk to her about it because I really wanted to start as soon as I could.
Briana, can you share with us when you started your youth apprenticeship working in early childhood?
I'm not really positive on that one. I
It
don't
was like
remember.
this school year though, right? Is when you started?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And who helped you find your business? So working there with Wings of Eagles in Algoma, who helped you find that business to work with? Or did you have connections on your own?
No, my youth apprenticeship person, which is Erica
Mhm.
Johnson. Yeah, she helped me.
Helped you. Awesome. That's great. And do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis with your youth apprenticeship and while you're at daycare?
So what I usually do is I go in around nap time, and then once they wake up from nap, we just hang out, play games, do art projects. We go outside sometimes. We just have a bunch of fun.
Awesome. Are there any classes that you've taken that has helped you prepare to do youth apprenticeship or do your early childhood youth apprenticeship? Any classes in school that you think were helpful?
Not really, but I did take a parent and child last year, but that kind of got cut off because of COVID. So
Sure, absolutely. So there are opportunities at school for you to get some addition or some education or training prior to going into the daycare and working with those kids.
yes.
Yes, but the natural, I think, love and passion that you have for working with the little guys is what really is important in the role that you're doing. Is there one activity, you said you guys have a bunch of fun. Are there one or two activities that you really enjoy the most out of your youth apprenticeship?
Probably just art projects. I love doing art.
That's awesome. And has there been something that's been more challenging or an area that you've really noticed that you've grown in since you started your youth apprenticeship?
I used to be really shy,
Okay. Oh, so
and now I open up more.
you come out of your shell.
Yeah.
And remind us, what grade level do you work with?
It kind of depends on the day. Sometimes I'm with the babies. Sometimes I'm with like 2-year-olds.
Do you prefer working with babies over toddlers, or you like working with any age?
It really doesn't matter to me.
Has youth apprenticeship influenced what you are hoping to do for a career? I know you said you've always wanted to do early childhood education, but has being in youth apprenticeship really showing you that that is what you want to pursue after you graduate?
Yeah, it kind of helped me see what working at a daycare actually was.
Great. And just a couple more questions here.
So can I just jump in there? So when you
Yeah,
said,
of course.
Brianna, it helped you see what it really was. Did you have a different idea about what it was before you started working there?
Not really. It just showed me what a day-by-day basis looks like at a daycare and everything.
Would you encourage either other students or even adults who have a passion for working with children, enjoy helping children develop? Would you encourage them to consider a career in early childhood education?
Yeah, if you really enjoy kids, and I would probably say yeah.
Okay, so it's super important that you love working with kids and really helping them learn and grow.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then last question for me, are you planning to, after graduation, are you planning to stay around the Door County area and continue a career in early childhood education?
I'm planning to stay around home, and yeah, I'm probably gonna go to college for early childhood.
Do you know what college you're looking to attend yet? Have you given any thought to where?
I think I'm going to NWTC.
Absolutely. Great. Well, that is all I had for questions. Brianna, I'm going to open the floor up now. So if any of the ladies on the call have any questions, then if you don't mind answering those for them as well.
Okay, sounds-
Brianna, have you talked to anybody at NWTC yet about starting classes there?
I talked to my boss today and he said that he does talk to them sometimes and he was gonna order me some books. So I think-
When you sign up, there's a get with your counselor because because you're working in early childhood now, there's some credits you can get because you're already doing the job. So you won't have to do as many course hours because of that.
And that saves money, Brianna. That's the greatest part about that.
Yeah, yeah. Brianna, are there any classes that you look forward to taking at NWTC that are related to, your goals?
Not really, but I'm kind of excited to be CPR certified so that way I can help people if they need it. Like if I'm out somewhere or something and they need CPR, I can do it.
Well, that would definitely be an asset. Yes. Yes.
Brianna, did
Parents
you
would
have-
love to hear that. Yeah.
Brianna, did you have to do first aid training when you started at the daycare or not yet?
Not yet. I'm getting signed up for that.
Awesome.
Mhm.
And so, I know, and maybe this isn't youth apprenticeship, maybe I'm confusing some things that I've learned about over the years, but so Brianna, and it's all crazy because of COVID, right? I was like, do you go to school part of the day and then go? I have no idea what your day looks like. Do you carve up your day for a certain number of hours, either per day or per week at the child care center? And then are you in regular classes? Do you already do any online or other classes that are particular to your youth apprenticeship path?
I'm at school until 8 o'clock till noon, and then I go to the daycare from 1 to 5:30.
Wow.
And you work 5 days a week, right?
Yes.
Wow. Are you exhausted by the end of that day?
Yeah, I'm tired.
I would think so. I would think so. That's a long time to be with little ones, plus school. Yeah. Is there anything about when you got this apprenticeship, is there anything about the job that surprised you that you didn't expect?
Not really. Just like I didn't expect them all to have tantrums sometimes. Like
There you
they
go.
all have different personalities for sure.
Yes, they do. Do you have little brothers and sisters?
I have one little brother. Yes.
Okay. Mhm. So, yes, they do all have their own personalities. Yes. And 2-year-olds definitely have an opinion. Are you able to
What's
stay
one thing
calm?
you learned
Oh.
about- Oops,
Sorry. Go ahead.
What's one thing you learned about how to deal with one or more 2-year-olds when they're not happy?
You just gotta stay calm. You can't yell. You gotta
Mhm.
relax.
Right.
You just
Right.
gotta let it go through.
Mhm. Are you naturally kind of a calm person, Brianna?
Yeah, I would
You
say
seem
so.
like it.
Mhm.
Seem like it. Have you recommended this program to any of your friends, or any of your friends interested in this?
I talk about it to my friends sometimes. Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't think any of them are really interested because they have jobs already. So
Okay. Mhm.
And so you said earlier that nursing kind of interested you. Was it through conversation with the youth apprenticeship people or with others, or just thinking about it more yourself, how did you decide between nursing and the childcare path?
I was just thinking about it by myself, and I knew that my mom had early childhood. She's certified, and I was talking to
Oh.
her about it too a little bit. So
Oh. Okay.
So did she do in-home care? When you say she's certified, did your mom provide care either at a facility or in-home?
no, she actually started working on the farm that I live on instead.
Any other questions for Brianna?
I have one. When you go to NWTC, what's one thing you're looking forward to learning more about?
It's a hard one. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Brianna, are you planning to stay working at the daycare while you're going to NWTC?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Uh-huh. And are you going to be working there all summer too? And like
Yeah.
more hours in the summer or anything like that?
I'm planning on doing more hours in the summer. Yes.
Okay. And they can fulfill those for you. They can fill those hours for you.
Yeah.
Good. Good.
So you'll
No.
be graduating this year after 2 or 1.5 years of COVID as a high school student. Good
Yay.
for you.
Yay. Congratulations. Yeah.
It's definitely
Definitely.
tough.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
you guys
I'm
do an
sure.
awesome job balancing school and your youth apprenticeships because it's certainly not easy. I know we're tired after a work day. So
Yeah.
for you guys to go to school and then go to work, that's a long day.
Mm-hmm.
But you guys are rock stars.
Yeah.
Neat. Any other questions for Brianna? Alrighty, then Brianna, thank you so much for sharing with us. Yes, about your experiences. If you need to hop off, you can. Otherwise, if you want to stay on and listen to Monica, but she's got some great information too. But otherwise, Christina, I will hand it back to you.
Thank you, Brianna. That was
Yes,
great.
yeah.
Thank you.
you.
Great job.
We really appreciate it. We know it's intimidating to talk to a group of strangers.
Nice job.
We're just wacky regular people. So Monica, I'm gonna just let you, I think if you would just tell us a little bit more about, you may have shared some in the past, but I don't know who has heard and who has not heard or who remembers your background and what led you to get the training. And then with you, we might be able to just jump in more and ask questions as you talk to learn, because your experience with this is different and very interesting. So I think we're all really curious to hear more from you too. So I'll just let you take it. But if you start with a little introduction of yourself.
Okay, I'm Monica Guilette, and I am a Door County relative, relative. Resident. I was born and raised here, but then I left and went in the Marine Corps for 12.5 years.
Wow.
So I dealt with the Camp Pendleton's daycare because I had a son while I was in the military. And then I got out and I went to massage therapy school, and I have 5 children total.
Oh.
And my daughter, Michaela, who graduated from Southern Door, is working at the daycare here in town. What is it called now, Michaela?
Door Community Child.
The Door Community Child Care. It used to be the YMCA daycare, but now, yeah, the Barker Center, but now that
Oh, okay. Yeah.
they are no longer running it. Yeah, she's working for them. And she was going to school and at the time, she didn't really, especially during COVID, her hours got reduced, well, dramatically. And for a while, she wasn't working at all. And we kind of threw it out there that, gee, you could do home daycare. And it's always hard to have backup. There's times that you need off and whatever. And I said, well, why don't I go to school also for early childhood education? Because then if for some reason you need a backup or we want to open, at the time my husband had a building that wasn't being utilized and we thought, wow, this would work as a daycare center. Since then has been rented. So we're not really looking at redoing that. But so anyway, as a massage therapist, my hands get really sore after a while. And I thought, well, what happens when I can't do massage? So this is kind of a backup plan.
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
With that said, NWTC runs some, the courses they have, we're doing most of the classes online so that Michaela continues to go to work, and doing the classes online makes it easy to work and then come home and do like your classes at night.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the class, there's a practicum that you have to do, and that's where I'm going to run into some walls with that, because I can't quit. I don't want to quit my job to go and do a practicum where I'm sitting in a daycare and I'm not earning anything while I'm at the
Right.
daycare then. So that's the only drawback right now that I'm finding. I'll be able to do the first one because it's only so many hours a week, but the second practicum, I think you have to do, I don't know, like, I think it's 30 hours or something a week. And that's where I don't know where that's going to lead to, because there isn't too many nighttime daycares, although there was one in Green Bay.
Huh.
So I know we don't offer anything too late here, and other than me going in and being there for when they open and leaving at 8:30 and going to my job, that would be the only thing that I'd be able to do.
And so your requirements are at a licensed facility, 30 hours a week supervised?
I think it's 30 hour. I've got to look at it again. The first practicum isn't as many hours, so I think I can pull that one off, but there's a second one that you have to do, and that I'm not really sure. I did not check to see what how many hours that one was. I'll talk to the instructor that I have right now. She's really really good and really helping out with a lot of different things, but she's pretty amazing. And they have it's a really good program. They make you really think about, is this really what you want to do? Because there's a lot more to it than just going and playing with the kids. I mean,
right, for sure.
There's knowing how to write the medical logs, knowing how to report incidences,
Right.
being able to observe and then log what's going on, and not the one thing that Mikhail and I both we had to do an observation. So I was lucky enough to be able to observe just my niece's son, and watching what he was doing, and then coming away and not putting my opinion into it, just watching what he did and wrote down exactly what he did, not making any little, judgments or anything. You just had to write exactly what they did. And then later on, apply. Then you could say, what milestones are they meeting? What are they, maybe are they delayed in a milestone? And looking at it from the different CDC's milestones and the, the Wisconsin mile, looking at all the different things and applying that. So it's not, I don't think people really understand the job that our daycare provide. I really don't think people have any clue as how much, I don't know, there's a lot of skill in it, and so people go, oh, they're just babysitters, but they're not just babysitters.
So many times.
They're, they're doing some awesome work, and just being able to, and then having to be able to, well, I have a friend that does home daycare, and she said, it's not the kids that are a problem, it's the parents. It's dealing with the parents, and, like, if you want to tell them, you don't say, oh, your child is delayed, but you might want to say, oh, what do you see at home? What's going on at home? I see this, what do you see? And, trying to get them to try to realize that there might be some delays that they might, the earlier you catch them, the faster you can make
Right. Mhm.
corrections. But if you leave it lag too long, they're going to have problems in school. And that's why I think people need to know, and I think if people understood exactly what daycares were providing, they'd be willing to find some ways to pay these employees more, because they have to do a phenomenal job. I mean, I just look at what my daughter does and I'm thinking, wow. And I'm not sure if I could do 8 hours a day, 5 days a week,
Yeah.
like they do. I mean, I look at it going, is this, would I really want to be there 5 days a week?
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
that's a lot. There's a lot of things you got to do.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm interested, Monica, so compared to Brianna and some others where, she says she's always loved kids, and given her age and her experience, I think that might be a common motivation. And it seemed like maybe you first took it, considered training almost as a curiosity, but it's really grabbed you and you seem really engaged, but maybe I misunderstand your initial interest. Could you talk a little bit more?
I think my initial interest was, well, one, I was looking at what could I do if I can't do massage therapy?
Right.
Where can I, it's not that, not be able to do massage therapy for 8 hours a day, because after a while, you're like, holy cow, this is, wearing on. As you get older, it gets to,
For sure.
But the other thing was that my daughter was in the classes and I was listening to things she was doing. Matter of fact, my daughter's right here. Do you want to pop in and say hi? She's the one that's working in the
Michaela.
and I thought, well, she wants it. It's hard to take a class on your own online, and especially after a full day's work. And I thought, well, why don't we do it together? That kind of was one of my first initial things. Like I said, it was sure not going to hurt me to take these classes. And I said, and it's a really good backup that if they needed a sub or whatever, I'm there, I can do that. And then I thought, wow, what about offering some programs in the summer that maybe would be geared towards younger kids, or, even a little bit older, that maybe parents aren't going to have their kids in daycare 5 days a week, but maybe they need somebody that's, just going to have them a couple days a week, and we could do things at the park. And, it just kind of snowballed. And it was like, but first I got to get the education. And then I thought, why do people want to go and get this education if they can just read a book and take a test and be qualified? Because that when I went and I had to spend a day in the daycare, and I went to not Algoma, I went to Brussels, and I asked the care provider there, I said, so, did you take the classes at NWTC? And she said, no, I read a book and took a test and I'm qualified. And I went, excuse me?
Yeah.
She only spent like $200 on the book. And I don't know if she said she had to pay to take the test or not, but I was like, why am I spending $5,000 to get an associate's degree to be able to do the same thing she's doing? And that was when I started doing a little more research, and I realized the reason I would do that is because you can't be a director if you don't have the education. So I thought, well, then now I understand the reason behind actually. I mean, I got my bachelor's degree in business, and I could, with the associate's degree in early childhood, I could be a director of a center.
Definitely.
So
Yeah.
my next step.
Sounds great.
And then to follow up on what Monica was saying, on some of our sessions, we've talked about the Young Star rating system. And that's one of those rating qualifications, is how much education your director has. So with Monica having her associates at some point, that's going to make them potentially a 4-star. If she would get a bachelor's in early childhood education, then they'd be potentially a 5-star, depending on meeting those other qualifications. And then remember, when we met with the Wisconsin Shares folks, the higher your Young Star rating, the more Wisconsin Shares subsidy dollars you can pull down from the state to offset your costs. So that's more of those motivators too. So as Monica goes further down this path, you know, to become that director potentially and have her own business at some point. I'm just assuming you are, Monica.
I'm going to personally talk to you afterwards, so don't worry about it. We're going to get you on the path.
Part of our childcare solution here, but
Yeah, it sounds
it
like it.
is, you know, thinking about those business sides of things too. And it's not just, you know, Brianna's at that nice 18-year-old age. So I did childcare from 16 to 26 or so. And yeah, at 18, it was all about the art projects and playing outside, right?
Right.
But as my education increased and my responsibilities within these centers increased, you really started to understand the lesson planning, the business side of things and all of that. So it's a great career path too for folks to progress through that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad we're recording this because I'm sure you are so busy. I can't imagine when you have any free time to talk to anybody else. But your story probably resonates with other people out in the community who are also very busy and locked up because of COVID. But everyone's taking time to pause and reflect and say, what do I want to do? This is a real opportunity to sort of reset or choose a different path. There's always that possibility, but right now it's really open, and just having people talk more. And it could be about childcare focused. It could be in general, Erin, multiple people out there considering changing their business path, their career path, second careers. To then get people thinking like, wow, so you really thought, you were really thoughtful about how you analyzed the situation and proceeded going forward. And it seems to be something that's truly interesting to you. That's what makes me excited about you really being energized by it. And that's why I'd like other people to hear from you, to hear about that these things are possible, and that you decided it was better to get the training that cost more because of your goal. Like the return on that investment is just going to be great.
Yeah.
I think it's cool too. You sound like a cool mom.
Yes, I
You
agree.
You
I don't
decided
know
to,
about that. Let's see, am I?
what do you think? No, but you decided to be a learning partner with your daughter.
Yeah,
And
supportive
that's-
mom. Yeah.
That says a lot about your orientation towards
Mhm.
learning and supporting other people's learnings as well. You have a very inspiring story.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah.
Well, I don't think sometimes she wishes I wasn't taking the classes with her.
I'm sure. I'm
Yeah.
sure that's true.
Well, one of the things that they always, I mean, even when they were in school, they always said, gosh, Mom, you always want us to do 110%, you know, and they know they could do a little bit less and still pass the class. And I'm like, if you're going to do it, you do it to your best of your ability. You don't
Right.
just skate by. And so, you know, sometimes it's, you're staying up until you get this done right.
Right.
So 10:30, you know, first going to bed because, you know, the assignment isn't up to mom standard.
Yeah, and I know you've got your great advisor at NWTC, and you seem very happy with them, but I encourage you to reach out to DCEDC with Erin or Steve Jenkins or me and Amy. When it comes to getting over that practicum hurdle, I mean, you are so motivated. We will do what we can to help that happen, because it should not happen that that's the one thing that holds you back from completing this. So
Well, it is difficult because I said, you know, like I have 1 day a week. I work 4 days. The way the massage therapy program at the hospital is, I work 32 hours. So I work 4 days and then I have 1 day off. So my 1 day off is Fridays. And then I said, if I can just dedicate those 8 hours to
Mhm.
my practicum, but they said, oh, well, you have to do more. And I thought, I said, can't some of my life's work?
Mhm.
I raised 5
Right.
kids, I mean, you know, and I taught CCD and I taught,
Right.
you know, classes with 4-H. And so I've been involved with a lot of youth activities. But I said, if they're going to require me to spend, you know, 40 hours at a daycare, I'm going to say I might not be able to do that until I'm not working.
You know what, Monica, I think that that's a good point. You know, I went back in my late 40s to be a teacher, get my master's in education. And part of it was that I had to have all these observation hours, just even be in the program. And because I had run the Great Books program and taught CCD and stuff like that, I got a lot of credit that way. I mean, they did give me, you know, I had, you know, 125 hours or something to do when I was observing, and then they said, well, we'll give you this 75 for all that. So it
Right.
really cut down the amount of time I had to leave, you know, my work to go and observe other people's classes before I even started the program, you know,
Right.
before I advanced in the program. So I think that
Yeah,
it
I'm
could
definitely-
easily be made for your life experience.
Yeah.
Easily be made.
I'm
Yeah.
definitely willing to go to bat for you, Monica, and, you know, help you navigate some of that. And there is that one in Green Bay, yes, but maybe there's some other options we can look at too.
Well, I was just, you know, I said it'd be like I did part of the little observation now with my niece's son, and I said, and well, it wasn't just him. There's 2 other children that are in that home daycare, but they're not a certified daycare. It's
Yeah.
just like a family care.
Mhm.
And I thought, well, can I do something with them because she still has them on weekends?
Right.
And I said, well, if I could do some of that hours on a weekend, sure would be nice, instead of having to take off
If
of
you-
work and then go.
And you were to say, if you were to do it, even if it wasn't certified, and wrote a paper
Right.
describing your experiences, that kind of thing.
And Monica, do you know, because I know some capstone classes like that, it's not just the time, it's that it has to be supervised. Do you know if your practicum hours have to be supervised? Because it's different, you know, you could get life experience, but if it's that you've got to have 30 hours where somebody's signing off and saying, and yes, I supervised Monica doing this.
Well, in that, I'm not sure. I haven't, I just looked at how, you know, the practicum, I think after we complete, I think right now I'm at the end of let's see, we're doing an art and what's the next class? Well, right now I'm in development. We're in a development class, and then we move on to an art class, and I think then my practicum comes. And then the one drawback that I find about with NWTC, because I was also doing some physical therapy assistant classes, but they don't tell you about those observation hours that you're going to have when you sign up for and I think that's a key thing when you enroll in these classes, especially if you're an older adult or somebody who's working in a working class and trying to develop more skills. They need to be upfront and say, hey, when you get to this point in your training, you're going to have to either be off, you know, like with physical therapy, there was 6 weeks that all you did was work 40 hours so you couldn't work at all. You would have to be doing that. And I said, wow, there's no way I can do this program and I didn't find that until after I did a bunch of classes. So I was,
oh my gosh, that's wrong.
You know, I said, you need to let people know up front,
For
you know, I said,
sure.
and it's kind of like that with the early childhood too, because I said, oh, what is the practicum all about? And they go, oh, well, you have to, you know, go and spend time and I'm like going, okay, well, can I do that on my day off, my Friday, and dedicate my Friday to that? Oh no, you're going to need to do more hours than that. And I'm like, oh, it would have been nice if you guys would explain this when you're first signing up to the class, because you do an orientation, but they don't talk about that.
Yeah.
So that's just one thing that I'm going to bring up at the Student Senate meeting, because I'm part of the Student Senate.
You are a go-getter, just
course
like
you
you
are.
said.
It's like, well, it's just, what I'm finding is they gear a lot to the kids coming straight out of high school.
Mhm.
And a lot of people look at NWTC, I mean, at least I did. I looked at it like, oh, this is a great place to go as an older adult to get some education,
Mhm.
because it's a technical school, not a college, And so I thought, but then I'm finding like, well, no, they're running their technical school like a college, that it's geared towards the new student. And I think they're losing out on really gearing some programs towards the older adult that maybe wants to do a job change, but you can't just quit your job to go to school either. I mean, some people have that luxury, but
Sounds like you should be running NWTC next, Monica.
well,
Because you have some absolutely great ideas, and
Yeah.
that's a big important role for community colleges, is to service people re-entering into workforce or changing careers, because everybody has to change careers nowadays. Very few people don't change careers 3 or 4 or 5 times before they're all over, right?
well,
Yeah,
and I
what the
think
heck?
there's there might be the parent that took off and stayed home with their kids, and they might be
Yeah.
willing to be early childhood, but they're going to need to earn an income because they have
Right.
kids.
Right.
There's
Right.
But
They're
There's
putting
that-
up hurdles where they don't need to be, right? They're
Where-
putting up hurdles that people have to.
where they should be opening up gates instead.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So how
This-
far are you into your entire career? Would you say you're at that midway point, or?
I'll be because I had education prior, because I have my bachelor's degree in business. I got a lot of credit, so I'm probably 3/4 of the way where I'm hitting
Oh, cool.
there's a halfway point of that practicum. I guess that's kind of a halfway with it, but that's because I have some of my other classes done, so I'm a little bit further in to get my associate's part with the early
Mhm.
childhood.
And so this is like going a little bit of a different direction, but it still ties in with the idea of childcare in the community, strength going beyond the training. Are you developing a business plan? Are you and Michaela going farther down that path?
We are we're first seeing how everything plays out, because she actually does really like her job where she's at.
Mhm.
And she knows, the kids like her. Some of them want to go home with her instead of their parents, that kind of thing. So it's kind of yeah, what?
Some call me mom.
Yeah, some call her mom. So it's kind of, it's
Aw.
really interesting, and so it's kind of fun, to see. But no, we haven't, as far as to answer that question, no, I have not. We did any type of business plan at this point, because we're just kind of playing it to see where. I'm waiting to see what happens with this practicum stuff, because
Yeah.
like I said, I have to first make sure that I can even finish it, because I said if I have to take off work right now, I'm not willing to do that. I
Right.
want to get it done on my time off. I don't want to take
Right.
vacation so that I can do
Right.
early
Right.
childhood. I mean, I'm willing to take maybe here or there, but I don't want to take a whole week off just so that I can do
Right.
get my hours in. So
Right.
I'll be doing a little bit more research on that part of it.
Yeah, because one of the time off is one thing, the finances is another, and I was wondering whether there were grant or scholarship opportunities either through NWTC or other organizations which would pay for your time on practicum, so at least you wouldn't be facing loss of income, or as much loss of income as not getting anything, but still time away from your job is another issue for sure.
Right. And I like what I'm doing now. I mean, it's not like because But
Mhm.
like I said, we do have a building that if the renters were to leave, that would be where I would start going, oh, well, we could reset it up. I mean, we'd have to put up some fences. We already were looking at what we'd have to do, because it would just be a small daycare. It wouldn't be one of the, because we don't want to have to employ a bunch of people, because I think that's where daycares run into a problem when you start having to have, oh, we have to have 7 people to run this daycare. You know, I said, that's, you know, that's where you start running into a problem. If you can run a place with 5 or 6 people, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know. That's what I said. How many people do you have to employ if you're, and what's going to happen once they start doing 3-year-old kindergarten? You know, because that's another big thing that's going to hurt some of the daycares, because you're going to lose a big chunk of.
Yeah, we heard about that last week. That was informational, very informational.
And one of the things that we've heard about, I'll just plant the seed because I'm just starting to think about it more myself, but something I think people often think about the traditional sort of childcare center, but I'm wondering whether there's a business model that could come together that's specifically geared toward part-time and off-hour care. So it doesn't expand all day care. That is the nature of your business. But Monica,
We know that's a need. So,
Right.
you know, Door County Child Care Center, the old Cherry School, when they were open, they closed about 5-6 years ago now, but they were about half of their kids were part-time kids. And, you know, they made that work, but that was also part of then their budget issues further down the road. Where, you know, Door Community Child Care Center, Alexis, her team there, they're being a little more flexible than when it was the Barker Center. But if it was the Barker Center, I wanted part-time care and Missy wanted part-time care, they would see if our hours would kind of offset each other to make one FTE. So, you know, that's something where there's that need for part-time. So, you know, if somebody's going to school, right, and they're 20-something-year-old single mom, they need childcare so they can go to school. Or maybe they're fortunate enough to only have to work a part-time job, so they need that as well.
and I'm wondering if it's, I've wondered whether adding that on to Northern Door or Door Community Child Development Center is just too much. It just stretches them too much. And if you break yourself apart from that and say, we're constructing a business model that is the focus is part-time and off-hour care, can you start to develop a different model rather than trying to fit part-time and off-hour care into the existing model that works better? And maybe it's somebody who doesn't want a lot of staff, who doesn't want it full-time, that starts to come up with that new model. Because I also think with COVID and these flexible work schedules, there's going to be a growing need or market for that part-time child care going forward.
Because that's where staffing did become the issue then. You know, you couldn't have it as a drop-in part-time, right? You still had to reserve your spot so that they had enough staff. You know, so if grandma's scheduled to take your kids every Friday and then grandma's suddenly sick Friday morning, your child care provider that was there Monday through Thursday for you isn't necessarily that option unless you're paying for a full-time slot. So you pay for Friday but never use it because ideally grandma's taking care of the kids. So yeah, there's just all of those things. And then evenings become a big issue here too.
Right. Right, because that's what we heard, where, you know, for our hospitality workers, evenings are a need. And that's something, of course, you know, it hadn't occurred to me, but it when soon as that woman said at that time, I was thinking, oh, of course. We need even people that can work in the evening, and that's an unusual need.
And then weekends for our housekeeping staff and
Right.
of course staff and all of our tourist industry.
Right. It's just a different situation up here. Yeah. Yeah. So.
Monica or Missy or Aaron, did any of you have anything to?
I hope that Monica is going to stay in touch with us because I'm inspired by her and
Yeah.
her story and where it goes. And just awesome. You just seem to really be an amazing person. Thank you so much for your time.
I would agree.
Yeah, very, very interesting story. And your path is just awesome. Very inspiring, like Missy said.
Yes.
Well, listening to, you know, like when COVID hit and then people didn't have daycare and I thought, wow, this would be the opportunity where we could have a place. I mean, well, I'm gonna start, you know, I started thinking, okay, they have to have dividers and they have to have, you know, but boy, these kids that don't, I mean, even with my son was a senior and he, you know, the classes that he didn't like, of course, those are the classes that he didn't do as well in, and he, you know, because he didn't want to do them. He didn't have anybody overseeing him saying, hey, you got to do this anyway. I mean, he still did well, but he could have did better. And I thought, wow, I really felt for the families because we had a couple people that, you know, all of a sudden they had their kids were going to school and all of a sudden, oh, by the way, tomorrow there's no school, you know, so here, what do they do? They're, you know, they're supposed to still be at work and they didn't have any place to bring their kids. And I said, boy, what if we had a wing at the hospital or someplace in some place where they could drop their kids off and we could still keep them kind of separated, but they could still, you know, and I said, there's got to be something in the future for something that happens like this again, that parents can bring kids in. I said, maybe retirees or something could help, you know, if we have, it just seems like there's got to be some type of education that we can give to have, I mean, like I thought about this youth program. It's awesome. I mean, what if the school had an area that, you know, I don't know. I mean, I kept thinking, well, they can't pay kids very much for education, but what if it daycare became part of the schools and there's a wing off of a school and it got funded through, like a teacher gets paid through the, you know, federal funding and whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe that's what daycare is going to end up going to, that there's a wing and then that just stays open year round. And then you get your seniors that come down and they do their volunteer hours and they get a certain amount of training that they can help observe in the classrooms, or not necessarily observe, but you got your teachers and then you have your youth that's there to do as an aid, you know, and I mean, I really see that maybe where we're going to end up going if we're going to want to pay the people for what,
you know
they're
what,
doing.
Monica, I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, I know you got a lot on your plate and a lot of plans, but I think you should run for office.
Yes, agreed.
I would work for you.
I hate politics.
No, but you have so many answers and you truly can see a problem and you can see solutions. It's like, it seems to me like you see a situation and immediately your brain starts clicking about ways to solve the problem. That's what we need. I'm serious. Think about it. Certainly have the background for it.
Yeah.
Well,
You got 6 votes right here. 5.
yeah.
Except you don't want to do it, but we were talking you into it.
But that's also, it's a great transition because, you know, we've been doing these town hall meetings every other week since mid-October. And we have covered a lot of territory. We started with our community conversations, and then we said, there's so much going on with childcare, kind of like what you were indicating earlier, Monica. People don't understand. Thanks, Aaron.
Thanks, Aaron.
And so we need the opportunity to have a deeper dive on these individual topics. And we've done that, and it's been great. And we're coming to the end of it. We're looking at, so what are the paths forward? And the thing is, there's probably multiple possible paths forward. So then the next question is, what path can our community get behind? in order to, because we can't go chasing the multiple paths. It just won't work. There's not the resources to do that. We're also looking at things from the legislative side, because that is a big part of the puzzle also. And people who have participated in earlier sessions have circled back around and said, so what's the status? What's next? And we do plan on reaching out to legislators to have a town hall meeting where we're talking with them about, we don't expect them to solve the problem, but have a conversation with us. Can you help us consider paths forward, and how do we work with you in order to carve those paths forward? But there's also the opportunity for just a circling back around of the community for one big capstone child care meeting. I have on the schedule one more regarding family child care networks, which are things that are in operation across the country for home-based providers. It's resource intensive. You're working all day long. You have to do the accounting. You have to deal with the parents. There's all these things, and it's these systems that have developed to help alleviate that administrative burden from individual home-based providers by pooling resources. And I don't know that our community is at a place where we're ready to launch one of those, but I want to have a session on that just so that we've come full circle and covered that as part of the conversation. But then we could have a pause where we give a shout out to people for, we're going to have a meeting, another now big community conversation about what are these possibilities going forward, and a re-invitation to get involved in that action. And it might be a month from now or a month after our next meeting rather than 2 weeks, because people would have the opportunity to go to YouTube and watch the videos, even if they weren't able to participate in the town hall. So they could come more informed. But I'm interested in what people's thoughts are on that. Are there different ways to do it that seem more appealing, more productive than others?
Well, we have covered so much since we started this, and we've one thing that's been so important is we've heard so many different perspectives, people's perspectives, and I think that needs to be consolidated in some way. We need to, note all the different perspectives, because some things frankly surprised me when people would say things, and we would hear people had conflicting opinions about what was needed from one meeting to the next, and everybody has a valid reason for what they're saying. So I don't know. I mean, I think there's a way we have to examine all those different perspectives and needs before we do anything. Does that make any sense, or compile any kind of analysis of it all? We have to gather that all, because I have learned so much